So, believe it or not, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door was my very first experience with any Mario RPG game in existence. So, you saw it right there at the beginning of the video. It was a Christmas gift I received from my family back in 2004. At the time, my reading comprehension skills weren't really the greatest. There would always be a point during one of my playthroughs that I would always get stuck at chapter 4, mainly because of that reason. I had trouble understanding Vivian's ability to eavesdrop on birds, and my little brain at the time couldn't process trying to move forward, so I ended up just starting the game all over multiple times. Eventually though, I would finally get past the chapter and finally beat the game. I'm pretty sure I was in high school by the time I finally finished it, and by then, the next installment had already come out for the Nintendo Wii, and I was readily able to continue the series, but even after starting the next several games in the series, there was always something about the Thousand Year Door that kept drawing me back. To this day, the Thousand Year Door is my most played Nintendo game next to the Mario Kart series. One of the key aspects in the Thousand Year Door was when you had leveled up Mario in the game. You had the option to increase either your heart points, flower points, or badge points, and it was completely up to the player to choose what they felt was necessary to progress in the game. Increasing just one or even all three at different intervals during the game could really change the outcome of how strong your player is by game's end. You could balance out Mario for a more well-rounded game, or you could just increase badge points for a more challenging game. See, the more HP you had, the more hits you could take. The more FP you had, the more stronger moves you could use, and the more BP you had, the more badges you could equip. Now I can tell you from first-hand experience, only leveling up BP is actually quite challenging. It definitely kicked my ass multiple times. I've never seen so many game overs in that game since playing through even Master Mode in Breath of the Wild or even Tears of the Kingdom. But nevertheless, it was very fun. I mean, this whole game in itself is a blast. There's the epic storyline, the remarkable and well-written dialogue, and not to mention the most memorable characters in the entire Mario universe. And that is what's great about the Thousand Year Door. It allowed me to share similar stories with friends that have played this game, talk about different aspects of the game, figure out what strategies was used when they played it. I even started watching other videos on the game, whether it be speedrunning, players having early access to the Pit of 100 trials, learning all of Zest's recipes, and even so much more. So you could only imagine my excitement when the remake got announced during this past September's Nintendo Direct. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't record a live reaction since I had to work, but I think this clip perfectly reflected how I initially felt.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Unlike Michael Scott here, this type of no was more so a resounding, no, I can't believe this is real life. It's 2023, and Nintendo is pushing out arguably two of the best Mario RPGs within 1 year of each other. Now, I will admit, the September 2023 Nintendo Direct was not the greatest, unless you were a Mario fan or a fan of remakes, which I want to make a separate video on that soon, so stay tuned. But one thing really stood out to me with the Thousand Year Door, and I didn't realize it until very recently. Nintendo is actually listening. Fans of the Paper Mario series have been begging for a return to form since the original TTYD came out nearly 20 years ago. This remake, right now, is our one and only chance to let Nintendo know that this is the direction the series needs to go. And we all know that Nintendo loves sales, so it only makes sense that whether you've been a player that has played this game 20 years ago, constantly throughout the last 20 years, either through emulation, or if you recently somehow coughed up $150 to play it, I absolutely believe that everyone needs to buy this game. If Nintendo can see that sales for this game skyrocket and they start hearing positive feedback with this game, even from those that have never played the game ever in their lives, it will only tell Nintendo that this is the correct formula for the Paper Mario series. And again, Nintendo obviously knows that huge sales drive them to continue making more of the same type of content. We've sort of seen this before with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and its Booster Course Pass. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild did well enough to earn a sequel, and games like Splatoon 2, Super Mario Maker 2, and Smash Ultimate prove that follow-ups to Wii U games can perform very, very well on a much better console. Now, before I get too ahead of myself, Obviously, I did not mention Origami King. Now, I'm not saying that Origami King was a very, very bad game or very, very good game. I'm sort of in the middle with it. I mean, it has its many flaws. The story and certain gameplay elements was definitely entertaining for the most part. But even when Nintendo came out with such a game, it kind of told us that Nintendo isn't afraid of taking risks and trying something new for audiences to play and see for themselves. And I think we are seeing that very clearly with this TTYD remake. Nintendo is taking a risk and remaking TTYD just to see how well it can perform on the Nintendo Switch. And going back to Origami King, I think that it was at that point where noise of a potential return to form started stirring up. It got somewhat there with the return of partner characters, well, sort of. The partner characters were only tied to specific areas within Origami King and weren't really able to join Mario elsewhere, but fans were somewhat satisfied with how that game turned out. But the noise was still there in terms of TTYD. So much constant upbringings of the game, wishing for a remake, got to a point where fans started modding the game. There was even a full-on dubbed series on YouTube, and funny enough, even a Google Translate version of the game, which if you haven't seen either of those, you really should. It is absolutely entertaining. It's amazing how much positive feedback many people are giving Nintendo about this upcoming remake, and I'm all here for it. 2024 cannot come soon enough. So those are my thoughts, but as always, let me know yours in the comments below. My name is Jordan64. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again real soon. Peace.